In this lesson, we show several exercises to perfect 4 of the most suitable moves to shield and change direction when being challenged from the side, and then take the ball in the opposite direction. As the opponent comes from the left, the player pulls the ball behind the standing leg with the instep of the kicking foot and moves off into the opposite direction. Here, the player stops the ball with the sole of one foot and steps beyond it with both feet and turns, thereby shielding the ball from his opponent, and takes the ball in the opposite direction. The third move to avoid a challenge from the side and change direction is an outside foot cut. You'll notice this action shields the ball from the opponent. This is the fourth move. The player steps round the ball, turns and brings it away with the opposite foot. Now, 4 of the most suitable moves to deal with challenges from the right side. This is the first. The player avoids the challenge by cutting the ball with the inside of the foot. Another challenge from the right. The player beats off by shielding the ball with his body after stopping it with his sole and taking it in the opposite direction with the opposite foot. This time, a left foot step over. The ball is taken away with the right foot. It's important that the knees are bent. The move should be made at the right time and not too close to the opponent. The body shields the ball as it's turned around with the sole of the foot. It's important to move away quickly once you've made the move. These moves acquaint players with challenges from the left and right side. The outside and inside of the foot are ideal shielding and change of direction moves. Constant repetition, getting better step by step. Step over with the right and left foot. Shielding the ball, changing direction, all indispensable moves for keeping possession. The step on. First approach at a slower pace, but once the move is made, accelerate quickly away. The player pretends to kick, then pulls the ball behind the standing leg with the instep of the kicking foot. Changing direction, he then turns the ball with the sole across the body. These exercises have given them valuable practice on using the 4 moves to beat challenges from the right and left side. A double move. Should the opponent react quickly to the first move, the immediate use of a second move often fools him. Here, the player pulls the ball around with the sole, then does a step over, sending the opponent who moves to the left in the wrong direction. Another double move. The player steps on the ball, shielding it from his opponent, then steps left behind the ball, and then takes the ball to the right with his left foot. Now a double move when the opponent is on the right side. The player stops the ball with his sole, then suddenly does a scissors and moves away from his opponent. Another double move when the opponent is on the right. The players work in pairs, each taking turns. Constant practice, together with encouragement to use the moves as often as possible, is essential. In this lesson, the players practice 4 different moves to get past opponents. To the right if the approach is from the left, and to the left if the approach is from the right. Here they use the outside and the inside of the foot cut. If the approach from the opponent is slow, the outside and inside of the foot spin round is very effective. As you can see, the body shields the ball first before the player spins off into the other direction. Here, the opponent attacks from the left. As he does so, the ball is turned with the tip of the sole away from him. When the approach is from the right, the player steps on the ball and pulls it behind him into another direction. Here, the opponent attacks from the left. As he approaches, the ball is turned away with the sole. When the attack is from the right, the ball is dragged back and played into the opposite direction with the instep of the same foot. Some opponents react quickly. In such cases, the use of double moves is important. Here, a drag back with the sole stops the opponent momentarily, and before he can react again, the player steps on the ball and pulls it behind and goes off with the opposite foot. Here, the opponent blocks a move to the right. The player cuts the ball first with the outside of the foot which shields it, then immediately makes a step-over move with the opposite foot. Now, a drag back with the sole and a step over with the same foot. Stopping the ball with the tip of the sole and then stepping around it with the same foot. This is an effective game move which is rarely seen in any match. What better reason for the boys to practice as much as possible and try to introduce it to their games. Now the boys concentrate on beating players when receiving the ball with their back to the opponent, as often happens in a game. Instead of just passing the ball backwards, we teach them the option of going past their marker either to the right or left. Here they receive the ball and step over to pull the marker to one side, then go past on the opposite side. A variation of the step over. Now they do a step over, but spin round and take the ball with the outside of the other foot. Here they spin round after a step over and take away with the same foot. These movements confuse the marker, who doesn't expect the player, who has his back to him, to get past. The player receives the ball and shields it from his marker, then pretends to strike the ball with the inside of the foot, but instead takes it with the inside of the other foot in the opposite direction. Players are taught many variations. Here the player does a double fake, first pretending to strike the ball, but then doing a step over with the opposite foot. Such moves are seldom seen in matches, mainly because they're not taught to players in training sessions. These exercises not only show you how to beat a marker behind you, but also how to practice kicking and receiving techniques. Here the ball is received and immediately pulled behind the standing leg with the instep of the kicking foot. For a clear summary of the moves to dominate the opponent in different one-against-one situations, we've limited the moves to 4. The players will probably favour 1 or 2, but we leave it up to them to choose. In this lesson, there are 12 exercises designed to teach players 4 moves and double moves to beat face-on challenges. First moves to get past opponents on the left side. Here the player fakes to take the ball to one side with the outside of the foot, but then takes it to the opposite side with the opposite foot. This move is made behind the ball. The player feints to strike the ball, but instead steps around it and takes it in the opposite direction with the outside of the step-over foot. During the basic training section, we saw 6 to 9-year-olds use this move both in practice exercises and during their small games finishing on goal. Here, the players step around the inside of the ball, then take it with the inside of the other foot in the same direction. The early parts of the program have given the boys wonderful flexibility and balance. Here, the ball is cut inside onto the opposite foot, which sweeps it away. Such moves offer both player and spectator some of the most exciting moments of a game. It's surprising that up to now, individual moves have not been a major part of training sessions. Now they practice 4 moves to beat an opponent on the right side. The player steps outside the ball, then takes it with the outside of the other foot in the opposite direction. It's important to accelerate away quickly after the initial movement. Cutting the ball from one foot onto another is an effective move to avoid onrushing opponents. Step right behind the ball, then take it left with the outside of the left foot. This is a very simple but effective move. The 4th single move to get past an opponent's right side. The player pretends to cut the ball inside with the inside of one foot, but then takes it with the inside of the opposite foot in the opposite direction. The first double move to get past the opponent's left side. The players step right and then left and then go right with the ball. The speed of footwork is a result of the early ball-feeling exercises leading up to this section. This is the second double move. The players drag the ball inside with the inside of the foot, then push the ball outside with the outside of the same foot. As with all moves, it's important to accelerate quickly away. The first double move to get past the opponent's right side. This combines first stepping around the outside of the ball to one side, with the same foot stepping around the inside of the ball to the opposite side. The ball is then taken with the opposite foot in the other direction. However quick their opponent's reactions are, these double moves make it difficult to defend against. The second double move to go past the opponent's right side. The players drag the ball inside, then step around the ball with the same foot, but take it in the opposite direction with the other foot. Now, in 6 drills, 4 players practice receiving, kicking technique, and beating opponents. The far player chips the ball to a partner who, after exchanging a first-time pass, takes on an opponent with a move of his choice. The ball is then played back to a player at the far end. Receiving well, the player chooses his own move to beat two opponents. Individual action in beating opponents has always been a characteristic of all star players throughout the history of soccer, so it'll follow that we should encourage this important ability in all young soccer players. Two players take turns to beat a challenge from the side with a change of direction move of their own choice. The players constantly change position during this drill. Two players continuously pass and receive, changing places. Their technique is so good by now that the tempo is continually speeded up. With each touch of the ball, they become more skillful, more alert, and more willing to practice harder. The one-against-one in many various directions, whether the opponent challenges from the front, side, or behind, can never be practiced enough. No player, not even the best, is ever strong enough in this extremely important quality. These drills are also suitable for professional players. The technical skills can always be improved. Chipping accurately is a difficult skill, which is made easier if ball feeling and control have been acquired. Now, 6 exercises to beat opponents individually or with 1-2 combinations. In 3 groups of 4, the players take turns to beat the opponents on one side while they can use a wall passer on the other. Before taking a decision as to what move they will use, they try to commit to the challenge. If the opponent goes to cut out a 1-2, then a move is used against him. 2 couples practice beating opponents with a 1-2 or any move they choose. They go past the player who's defending the line with the support of the wall passer or a move. The passing player defends the line, the player who makes the move passes the ball to the other pair. These exercises are designed so that all players, regardless of their positions on the team, get as many chances as possible to beat players. Beating opponents is an important part of this method. The 2 players between the 2 cones are, in turn, wall passer and opponent, while the other 2 beat the opposite opponents with a 1-2 or a move. The 4 players change position constantly. The speed of footwork is important when making a move. These boys are an example of practice making perfect. Two players beat one opponent after another and change places all the time. The coach decides the degree of challenge by the defender. The main aim during these exercises is to perfect the techniques. Once they've got better, then the challenges can be gradually increased. Groups of 4 players continue to work together to improve their receiving, one-touch passing and 1-2 combinations. Here, a first-time layoff, a chip to the far end player who plays a first-time pass to beat the challenge with an accurate 1-2 passing combination. All 4 players continue to change positions with each other, so they all get equal opportunity to perfect these skills. a chip, a 1-2, then a layoff and first-time chip. All the boys have acquired good ball feeling, which is necessary for all kicking techniques. The player chips over his opponent, then takes the position of wall passer in the empty corner. Each player gets many opportunities to practice the difficult art of accurate chipping. Here there's a continuous 1-2, combinations with the same wall passer who's continually changing his position. In the first part of the program, you'll remember that the 6 to 9-year-olds practice the same drill without the chip. It's important to pass accurately both short and long. Here, the pass with the outside of the foot is made to the middle players who continually change with each other. The same format, except this time chipping. The players receive with all parts of their body. The continuous use of ball work throughout the early years enables them to have wonderful control. They're already masters of the ball. This is a challenging exercise that requires accuracy and good touch. Obviously, some players will master techniques faster than others. However, most of them, with regular practice, will be able to improve themselves to a considerable degree, whatever their initial abilities may be. Without even looking up, they're so confident and have acquired such a mastery that they're able to pass a moving ball accurately each time. The more skilled they become, the more they become convinced about the value of practicing regularly and effectively, and also independently, which builds up their self-discipline and self-esteem. These players have acquired excellent kicking technique and receiving skills because they first acquired ball feeling. The earlier ball skills are worked on, the more advantage a player has in later years. Here the boys are perfecting some moves for beating opponents, receiving and passing techniques. The players now choose their own move. There's no doubt they begin to have favourites early on, usually the ones they experienced most success with. Just as in part 1 of the basic training, all exercises are practiced regularly with alternatively small-sided games. Here, 2 against 2. Left free to use the moves they've been taught, they're encouraged to try without fear of failure. The coach tries to create an atmosphere where young players can gain confidence and self-belief. Instead of being dependent on the coach, the player develops the potential of early independence. Groups of 5 players. Good touch and ball feeling is essential in order to use quick, first-time combination play to beat opponents. In football, hitting the moving ball is very important. Two balls. The players have to look up and time their passes. 5 players continually change places. Players should also be encouraged to call for the ball. Communication is vital. The same formation, but the ball is now chipped. This is a difficult skill, but once ball feeling is acquired, it becomes almost second nature to our young players. One player continuously practices chipping to players on his right and left. These players don't put a foot wrong, they're confident of their control. These passing and receiving exercises can be alternated with ball skill drills. Here, a challenge from behind. Once a player turns his back on a challenger, the opponent thinks the ball will be passed backwards. This is the time to send him the wrong way and move past him. Many of these exercises progress to using two balls. This adds a degree of difficulty, while at the same time making the exercises more interesting. Angling the pass while on the move. Again, the ball goes accurately at the right pass. Ball circulation, 1-3 and 1-2 combinations. No one stands around, everyone's involved and supports each other, an invaluable lesson for good team play. Even the top professional players would find these exercises challenging. By acquiring good control as early as possible, even the most demanding skill is made easier. Accurate first-time passing. With exercises like this, the players understand that this sort of controlled play can achieve results against opponents. Better still, they feel equally involved. These exercises are designed to incorporate as many skills as possible. The variation makes it interesting for the players, and at the same time, the exercises often simulate game situations. Again, a ball skill exercise. As with the earlier drills, the opponent is still a partner and at this stage doesn't challenge to win the ball, but only assists his partner in perfecting the technique. The objective is to send the opponent one way and go in another. Here they use single and double moves. In this lesson, with groups of 5 players, we see more work on kicking technique as well as combining with teammates. A point to be stressed often, the ball passed accurately at the right speed makes it easier for the teammate to receive. Even in drills, they should realize they're working for and with each other. Another drill, this time bypassing the 2 opponents with the help of a permanent wall passer. Accuracy is important in 1-2 combinations, as well as disguise. If the players have good 1-against-1 ability, they're able to disguise this option. Again, clearly illustrating to the players the value of 1-2s and moves as options. The more young players are convinced in the effective value of what they've been taught, the quicker they will develop both technically and tactically. Two players in the middle are either wall passer or opponent. The wall passer gives the player in possession the option to beat opponents with a 1-2 or move. Those who've not learned the kicking technique properly or are poor in one-against-one situations are not able to practice drills like this. Without touch and ball control, technical training is bound to be limited. If they do have this crucial ball control, however, nothing is impossible. As you can see, the player in possession takes full advantage of all his technical and creative skills. Single moves, double moves, quick and sharp. These drills are the platform which leads to successful use of such skills in match situations. Three players of each team of 5 play 3 against 3. The other 2 of each team are wall passers when their team is in possession. All the small games have aimed at getting the players to practice and use what they've learnt in the drills in match situations. Opposition of opponents is much stronger now than it was during the exercises. They frequently beat their opponents with or without a 1-2. The aim has been reached. One player of each couple functions as wall passer. He receives the ball from the other couple, then beats the opponent who's defending the line between 2 cones. The player who is last an opponent receives the ball, passes it, then becomes a wall passer. He ends by becoming an opponent again. This is another exercise where all players get equal opportunities to practice both attacking and defending skills. This age is ideally suitable for learning all the techniques as perfectly as possible and to develop as an excellent dribbler in smaller and bigger games. Again, constantly changing places, the 5 players perfect the difficult art of chipping. The importance of first touch in soccer can't be stressed enough. Also, good receiving means more time and space against your opponent. Now, with groups of 6 players, we concentrate on improving the skills needed to dominate opponents in one-against-one situations. Here's an effective move. Turn the body sideways, pretending to pass to a teammate on the right. Then the ball is cut across the body onto the inside of the left foot and taken away. Here, a double move. Drag back with the sole, then step on, and move the ball in the opposite direction. Here, a challenge from the back. The players switch roles after each attempt. All these exercises also develop good fitness. Fitness is an important part of the game. All these drills are physically demanding for the younger boys. What better way to become fit than using the ball? The opponent attacks again from the side. These drills familiarise the players with the various angles that they can be challenged. After so much repetition, the players are better able to automatically deal with such challenges during matches. As in the game, often when you beat one opponent after another challenges you, you have to react quickly. Here the players beat off 2 successive challenges with a move of their choosing. It's essential to have the ability to beat opponents on either side of their challenge. Then they can never predict exactly which way you will go. One of the most important individual skills is to be able to threaten to pass your opponent on one side, but go the opposite way. After acquiring ball feeling and a good touch, we speed up practices to game pace. There's no doubt in our minds that after many years working with young players, all the skills, sometimes unbelievable, can be accomplished at a young age. Four players, one defending each corner of a rectangle. 2 players, each with a ball, go around the area, beating off challenges. The defender can come some yards off his corner if he wins the ball. Then the players change places. Two players play 1 against 1. 2 at each end rest and wait their turn. 1 against 1 or 2 against 2 is ideal also at this age. Without doubt, the most highlights in a game come from individual play, in which one or more opponents are outplayed with some of these techniques. Each player who is strong in the 1 against 1 can solve the situation in each part of the field. That's the reason that all this important quality should be regularly and effectively practiced in each training session. A step over sends the opponent the wrong way. The ball is played across to the next group. The formations of the drills are varied, while often the same skill is practiced. Variation tends to keep interest. The size of area for all the drills can be adapted to the abilities of the players. This is a small area. These players have the ability to chip accurately without the drill breaking down. If there are difficulties, then distances can be increased. The same formation, except the chip is along the line to the side of the chipper. In many of the drills, the players can choose their own moves. You'll find players have a favourite, one they feel most confident with, one which they have experienced success using. In the same formation, now the boys chip the ball, receive it, and beat the opponent. In this lesson, groups of 6 players practice kicking technique, first-time passing and 1-2 combinations. Again, the same principle as practicing dribbling skills, constant repetition. But to make this repetition interesting for the players, the drills are often varied. That's one of the strengths of the method. In most of these drills, many players work together at once. This helps team spirit and shows the value of working together. Two balls are introduced. More concentration, the need to look up, play the ball at the right pace, all qualities needed in a match situation. With technical development comes more confidence and self-belief. One-touch passing, a great way to beat opponents, as the young players soon realise. The pass must be accurate, the player must be mobile. We often restrict the space for these drills. Because of this and the speed, a great deal of skill is needed. As in many match situations, there's no opportunity to stop the ball and pause to see what the situation is. Often the boys use their head for a 1-2 combination. Also with the head, you need ball feeling for practicing these attractive and effective exercises without interruption. Combining chipping, 1-2s, first time passing. Another variation, the players can expect each practice session to be a little different and more challenging. That's the way to maintain their interest. Five players form a circle with one player in the centre. Players play the ball and change places with the receiver. Now we have real game speed. They realise the quicker they are, the more difficult it is for an opponent to stop them. Enjoyment is the key to the method. Remind the players to call to each other so they get into this valuable habit for matches. Now here's a fun exercise. Pass, follow, the receiver delicately chips over, and the sequence continues. Such a beautiful light touch. The players are well on their way to mastering all the techniques and developing into excellent technical and creative players with confidence and self-belief. In this lesson, groups of 6 players practice more passing, receiving, and going past opponents individually or with one or more support players. Here, 2 groups of 3 players change position. The player who passes the ball gives support on the right side of the opponent. The coach is able to replay the video to demonstrate the skills. Some look complicated, but broken down, they will soon be easily understood. Here, the 2 players who've passed the ball give support on the left side of the opponent. The players realise more and more that the moves are essential for going past one or more opponents and become really good players. This automatically increases enthusiasm, inspiration and dedication. It's very important that young players enjoy practice and develop step-by-step self-confidence, self-belief and a good training mentality, essential for quicker development. The players continually have the opportunity to concentrate on technical and creative skills. Without such skills, play becomes predictable and mediocre. The coach tries to develop players with so much confidence that he doesn't need to shout instructions all the time. Initiative comes naturally to the players. Soccer is a beautiful game for everyone who's mastered the skills and uses these ball skills with flair and confidence at every possible opportunity in games. These exercises show clearly that this age is ideally suitable for learning all the techniques as perfectly as possible. It's fantastic to watch them make spontaneous, unexpected, creative moves. They develop into excellent dribblers. The players continually have the opportunity to concentrate on technical and creative skills. All these exercises can be carried out with full opposition to make it more realistic and match-like. All the exercises for beating opponents, either individually or with 1-2 combinations, mean optimal enjoyment and involvement. In circles, the players play 4 against 2. The 2 couples in possession must pass using a 1-2 or move. The opposition is gradually increased. One of the 2 opponents is obliged to attack all the time. The player in possession has the opportunity to use a 1-2 quite easily. The team that loses possession becomes defender. In the same formation, 2 couples in possession may touch the ball at the most 3 times. The players who lose the ball must change places with the 2 opponents. All these drills have a clear aim for developing further the knowledge of tactics. Three players practice chipping and beating 2 opponents by moves of their own choice or with 1-2 combinations. Constant repetition of all the techniques in varied exercises is the key to perfecting these skills. Variation is necessary for maximum concentration and involvement. It's almost like a competition. Once the player performs a move, all the other players are determined to follow suit, or do even better. In this lesson, 7 players practice overlapping and speed. 3 couples with 1 permanent opponent in the middle in turn beat the first opponent with a 1-2 and the second and third by a move or a combination. The pass must be made at the right moment, not too early, just long enough to confuse the opponent. In this exercise, the player who was previously the opponent offers himself as wall passer for the 1-2. He then overlaps to make it easier for the player in possession. The last player of the group following repeats the drill with the player who was the opponent before. These exercises also concentrate on improving combination play. However, they're also excellent for speed work. Many short, strong sprints are required at regular intervals. A 1-2 followed by an overlap. By increasing the distance between the players, a more demanding kind of sprint training takes place. Speed is important, whether doing a move, getting away from opponents, or combining. There are many opportunities for improving speed and fitness using the ball. As we said before, the coach of this program tries to plan his limited training time to make each training session as attractive and effective as possible. The coach is fully aware that steady improvement is essential for more enthusiasm, satisfaction, inspiration, and motivation. The coach's aim is to teach all the ball skills as perfectly as possible and give the youngsters, with their great enthusiasm, fantasy and vital energy, the full opportunity to develop and explore their technical and creative abilities. One couple is playing lengthwise and one playing across the field. Opponents cannot be sure if an overlap or move will be used. The couple that lose the ball become opponents themselves. Now, some overlapping drills with 6 players. The ball is passed to the player who's marked from behind, and the passer then helps him by overlapping. This wrong foots the opponent. The defender then receives the ball and repeats the drill. Whether the opponent is in front, at their side or at their back, the player in possession is able to wrong foot and beat him by using various moves they have learned. Again, if the player has learned the one-against-one moves, he has options when overlapping. He's able to pass to his overlapping teammate or use him as a decoy to send the opponent the wrong way with a move. Without learning the valuable one-against-one moves, a player is limited in his options. It's hard to stop players who use the overlap correctly, as opponents have their backs to the goal more often than not and are forced to concentrate on the player in possession. The overlapping player is already at full speed, which is to his advantage if the overlap pass is made at the right time. First, pass the ball to the player who was previously the opponent, then beat the middle player with a 1-2 or a move, and the second opponent with a move or overlap. The last opponent now receives the ball from the other side and in turn beats 2 opponents by using a 1-2 and overlap with the passer. At this age, when flexible and supple, easily learn the 5 different sliding tackles in 1 or 2 training sessions. But learning to control the ball well without an opponent is difficult and needs regular and effective practice. Learning to dominate the one-against-one situation with full pressure is extremely difficult for players without great talent. Practice of this vital quality should be continuous and effective in each training session, even with professionals. At the same time, they develop their defending skills. This is, without any doubt, the only way to change colourless and predictable football in the future.